public hearing. Is there any additions or corrections to that?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
And next is on to finance. Mr. Andrew Mackey, the star of the show.
All right, thank you. We'll get right into this. It's really not that much different than what we've talked about in previous months. I did give you guys, each of you, a packet. These are the most updated numbers. I've tweaked it a little bit from what you guys have and what you got emailed last week. I just updated these this morning. So really not much has changed. I'll run through all the details again really quickly. Just as a refresher for everybody, our state budget allocation, the state budget is, the money they put in this year is driven by the $1,500 increase to each step of the minimum teacher salary scale. That's sort of the driver of it. They run it through the formula. Our allocation from the state is about $6.8 million. It's about $120,000 more than what our final allocation was for the current fiscal year. $4.9 million of that is the state aid to classrooms from the general fund. $1 million is the EIA fund. $653,000 for retiree insurance and $209,000 for health insurance. The issue with that allocation they give us is we never actually get that much money because they allocate it based on your weighted pupil units compared to the statewide weighted pupil units. So the denominator grows, our numerator stays the same or decreases. So we never get what we're initially projected to get. On average, it's $179,000 less. The first year of that funding formula, it was a $318,000 decrease. It's starting to level off. It was $158,000 difference in fiscal year 24, and this year it's only about a $60,000 decrease. So hopefully that leveling off continues and it'll be a more reliable number budgeting going forward. But we're still getting less than what they originally tell us to get. So we've budgeted in that aid to classrooms, those two line items, our projection's about $5.9 million, and we've only budgeted about $5.8 million or so of that to try to account for that difference in actual budget to actual. Here's a graph that just shows the green bar is what we've been allocated, the blue bar is what we've budgeted, and then the yellow bar is what we've actually received. So that just sort of shows you the difficulty in trying to budget based on this projection that you get from the state. Locally, our estimates include a $3.7 million from our operating millage. That's just the tax on second homes, businesses, commercial property, cars, boats, all the things that you pay property tax on, not including your personal residence. $1 million from the manufacturing reimbursement. That's when they've lowered the corporate tax rate or the tax rate on corporations. They then refund you that through a sales tax reimbursement. $776,000 from the Lake Greenwood Development Zone. Only $654,000 from our fee in lieu of agreements. Last year, fiscal year 24, that number was $2.4 million. We took a big hit this year from Fuji, and then Ascend is about $200,000 to $300,000 that we've taken out of the budget to account for that closing as well. So that's really, when we talk about our budget deficit, that's the line item right there that's causing it. Total local revenue about $6.4 million. And then again, none of that includes anything from Fuji or Ascend. Ascend will probably pay a little bit of tax because they operated some in 2025. And then there's, Eaton, Velux, and Fuji are all still using facilities at Fuji. No one really knows to what extent they will eventually have to pay some kind of tax. So hopefully we'll start getting some sort of tax revenue for them. But because it's so unknown as to what that will look like, we're just not going to budget for it. And then we'll just monitor that throughout the year and see what we get. And then our other revenue, these are all generated from the State Department of Revenue. there's 3 different homestead exemptions. One on the first $100,000 of your property, one if you're 65 and older. Those first 2 are capped at $270,000 and $244,000 every year. And then this third one, this is the penny sales tax that replaces tax on your primary residence. It's $2.3 million. Luckily, when the state tells us we'll get $2.3 million for that line item, we actually get that exact number. They divide it by 12, and we get that throughout the year. And then $70,000 for our out-of-district students. That population continues to grow. So our initial budgeted revenue, not including any sort of transfer from fund balance, is about $16.2 million. That's more than $1 million less than where our budgeted revenue was for last year. And again, it's driven from that fee in lieu of tax line item. So then our total transfer from fund balance to balance our budget will be just a touch under $1.5 million. And again, that's just a budgeted number. It'll hopefully be less, one, because we'll get additional revenue from Fuji, Velux, Eaton, those places, and then 2, as hopefully the trend continues where our expenses come in under budget as well. So we won't actually make any sort of physical transfer until the end of the year, and we'll see where we balance out. So that's just a budgeted number for right now. And then our expenditures, $17.7 million in expenses. The majority of that's our salaries and benefits. It's about $13.4 million. That is a slight increase from what we budgeted from last year, but the increase to our current employee salaries is much more than just the $70,000. We've been able to offset those salary increases by not filling certain vacancies. The principals have done a great job scheduling and working things out to where we can sort of absorb some positions, some staff members that have left. We've been able to absorb them. We do still have a couple of vacancies included in the budget that we're hoping to, we've got them included in the budget to see where our enrollment ends up once our students get in. We might fill those, we might not, depending on student counts and what our needs are. And also part of that increase in our salaries is due to our Title I funding. The federal government continues to cut that every year. I think our Title I funding for next year is 300 some.
80, which is about 42,000 less.
Yeah, two or 3 years ago it was over $500,000. So the federal government continues to, I don't know if they're reallocating it or just cutting it, but that number goes down, and so as we lose that Title I funding, we've got to pick that up out of our general fund. And then our other expenditures are about $4.3 million, mainly due to increases to Duke Energy, to the Bud Group contract, things we need to continue to operate. So, and then, like I said, I've ripped my notebook right here. I provided you this packet that has just the budget broken out, so you can see it all in one place. Our total revenue of $17,740,560. Our total expenses of $17,740,560, including that transfer from fund balance of about $1.5 million. I've also included all the salary schedules for all our teachers, TAs, secretaries, every position that we have in the district, as well as our supplements. I know our supplements were a topic of discussion last meeting. So the only changes to those supplements are we're adding $500 to our band assistants, 2 days for football coaches on their contract, 10 days for the percussion director, and then we've increased the middle school head coaches by $1,250 a piece. Now, all of those increases total only about $16,000. So I know, Jay, you had asked about what that was costing. So, the way we looked at it was It's a pretty significant increase for each individual and a fairly small dollar amount for the district to pick up. So yeah, that is the budget for this year. I know I ran through it really quickly, but again, it hasn't changed too drastically. Over the last 3 months, we've talked about it, but I'll be happy to answer any other questions you guys might have.
Can you speak to maybe to our fund, balance, I guess because we're having to pull some out of there and kind of give us the I kind of want to make it clear that we're still well within what's recommended and all.
Sure.
We've talked about that before, but I just don't want people to feel
Yeah,
like we're
so-
stealing from piggy bank too much.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'll try to make this to where it's easy to see for everybody. So this is just a spreadsheet I keep track of, just tracking our general fund balance over the years. Now, so our fund balance, all that number is essentially the equity the district has built up over the life of the entire organization. So if revenues exceed expenses 1 year, that goes into our fund balance. It rolls to the next year, and we continue that exercise year in and year out. So you can see this spreadsheet goes back to 2016. I wonder if I can make this smaller to where I can get it all on one page. So, yeah, you can't see this very well, but so since 2016, we've added between 2016 and 2023, we added $6.3 million to our fund balance. So every year since 2016, we added about $1 million to our fund balance every single year. And that built our fund balance up to where it was at the end of June 30th, 2023, our fund balance was $9.5 million, which is 8 months of expenditures. The sort of the industry standard is to keep 2 months of expenditures in your fund balance. We had 8. So we could have not brought in a dime more and survived as an organization for 8 months. And then our board policy has we have to keep at least 25% in our fund balance of our expenditures. That's our board policy. We were $6 million over that 25% threshold. So that's when we decided that we could move $4.5 million to help pay for the multiplex project because we had so much in reserves. And so that's what you'll see in this 2024 column right here. Can't see it very well. That's this transfer right here in this cell that I've highlighted. It's 4.9 because we have some other inter-fund transfers, but $4.5 million of that is what we transferred out. Even with that transfer into our capital projects fund, our fund balance at the end of last fiscal year was still $6.4 million, which is almost $2.5 million over that 25% floor. So we still have a lot to work with. And then of that $4.5 million we moved to the multiplex, we still have a touch under $800,000 left over. So we could keep that in the capital projects fund for capital projects, or we could say, hey, we need that for our general fund because of the hits to our revenue. We're going to move it back to our general fund balance. And so that 6.4 then becomes 7.2. So we have a lot. Now, we might have to dip into that fund balance a little bit for the fiscal year 2025 because the Fuji impact was so much more than we anticipated. But even it might be $500,000, let's say, is our expenses will exceed our revenue by about $500,000 at the end of this current fiscal year. We could say, hey, we're going to take $500,000 of that capital projects transfer, move it back, and then we'll still be at that 6.4, if you're following that. So we're still in really good shape. We could take the full 1.5 next year and still be we have 2.5 to work with essentially in excess. So we could take $1 million this year and $1.5 million next year and still be in good shape based on our board policy. So I mean, we are in good shape to withstand this storm for a couple years. And then starting in fiscal year 2027, that's when Tejean revenue will start coming in, the ES Foundry revenue will start coming in. And then our index of tax-paying ability, which is a function of the state funding formula for this fiscal year 25-26, it still assumes that we're getting money from Fuji and Ascend because there's a two-year delay on that function. So the state funding formula still thinks we're getting Fuji money when we're not. Next year that corrects. It'll pick up that says, hey, you don't get Fuji anymore, so our state money should go up as well. So starting in 27, that's sort of the light at the end of the tunnel. We'll start to get some relief revenue-wise. So to answer your question, yeah, we've got some fund balance to work with. I know the sticker shock of that number is a tough pill to swallow, but we are positioned where we can get through this.
It's nice to know we have 2 years to cover
Yeah,
this.
we can get through it pending the new revenue starts coming in. So there's no reason to believe at this time that revenue won't come in. So now if Tejean shuts down randomly, then we'll have to go from there.
Do we get a certain, I mean, I know we get a certain percentage, but is it a certain percentage from each one of these industries, or the state gives us a certain percentage?
So which industries are you, because they all operate a little bit differently.
Is it based on their revenue? What we receive?
Well, so it's based on, so like if you have a fee in lieu agreement with the county, they pretty much, it's a contract with the county to where they say, we will pay X dollars as a fee in lieu of our taxes. So if they're paying their taxes, yes, we would get a percentage of their, whatever income they're showing on their tax return, whatever their corporate tax rate is. But the fee in lieu agreement, it's an agreement with the county, a contractual obligation with the county to say, hey, if we invest this amount of money into your county, the county says we can pay this fee instead of our taxes, and the fee is always going to be less than their taxes. That's sort of their incentive to attract companies to come to Greenwood County.
Do we get money off that fee, or does that go to the county?
The county has the authority to distribute that fee however they want to. So I don't know if you've noticed, Greenville County School District was in the news recently because Greenville County said that they weren't going to give the school district $8 million that they always give them. They were going to take $8 million of their fee in lieu money and use it for road improvements. And so the school district and the county had a big argument, I guess, as to what to do. Why would they do that? How could they do that? Whatever. I think the county called the school district a fat cow. It got pretty interesting, but so yeah. But our Greenwood County does it proportionately based on assessed value in each school district. That's how they distribute their fee money. Is to say, hey, 96 has 50% of the assessed value, so they get 50% of this fee. They could also change that, because it's their agreement. They can do what they want with it. But fortunately, Greenwood's been pretty equitable with it. Are there any other questions?
All right.
All right.
You don't have any questions? I guess we can
Yeah.
let you off the hook. I'm going to adjourn.
For
We'll come
now.
back and just
Yeah.
just a little bit. Do we have a motion to adjourn, or we need,
Make a motion.
Second?
all in favor?
Good job.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, thank you.
Details of the slip phrase, fat cow.
Well, it's, you know,
I hear that some of that happened to Limestone, that the city or county wouldn't
oh, really?
get money, but would never contribute or distribute money for the university.
Yeah, reading stuff like that makes me fortunate for the relationship we have with our board and our county and.
It's always nice